I got bumped out again. Let me know. Okay, I'm gonna try to see what's going on here. Okay, I'm gonna try to see what's going on here. Okay, trying to get okay again, trying to get everybody back. I apologize. I have no idea. It's never been this glitchy. In the last 3 months that I've been doing, 4 months I've been doing this has not happened. So we're gonna wait for people to get on. Okay, trying to get okay again, trying to get everybody back. I apologize. I have no idea. It's never been this glitchy. In the last 3 months that I've been doing, 4 months I've been doing this has not happened. Okay, I think I'm starting to get people. Okay, I'll just keep on going. Traffic signals from top to bottom, red, yellow, green. Very important that you understand that red is the most important. That's why it's at the top. And then yellow, and we'll talk more about a yellow light, what to do as you're going through. Green is at the bottom. Green only go through a traffic light that's green when you know it's safe to. Don't think that it's an automatic safe travel passageway. Um, I've only got 6 people. Okay, we're missing a few. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Got 8, possibly. Um, Sometimes traffic lights are very confusing, and don't misread what you're seeing here. This is not a real traffic light. It's actually a an art exhibit that's in Europe somewhere, but it's so close to a roadway that I'm sure it gets people a little confused of what's actually happening. Um, so be very very careful when you're driving around because sometimes other lights are going to confuse you. Now, how do traffic lights really work? Now, in order to really understand this, I want you to write this down. There is a magnetic field underneath the pavement that senses when cars are coming and when they've left an intersection. So, yes, in a way, lights are timed, meaning after 3 minutes, the light's going to change for other people left or right. But that's really kind of old school. We are going more with having the lights activated when there is traffic there. So when there's no traffic, it's going to be red. When there is traffic, it's going to be green. As a car passes over it, it sends a magnetic pulse from the metal of your vehicle through an underground cabling system to a computer terminal at the intersection, usually housed near the intersection in a large metal box at one corner, signaling that a car is coming from a certain direction. That is how a turn signal knows when it's activated. So to give you a better idea of how this actually works, I found a pretty cool video about traffic flow. So we're going to try to watch that, and hopefully we're not going to have any problem with the live feed tonight.
If you live in a major city, I can take a pretty good guess at one of your most common frustrations: traffic. In city driving, the journey is rarely better than the destination. In most cases, we just want to get where we're going. Traffic is not just frustrating, but it has consequences to the environment as well. All those idling vehicles have an impact on air quality. When you're stuck and sitting behind a long line of cars, it's easy to let your mind wander over solutions to our traffic woes. But traffic management in dense urban areas is an extremely complex problem with a host of conflicting goals and challenges. One of the most fundamental of those challenges happens at an intersection, where multiple streams of traffic, including vehicles, bikes, and pedestrians, need to safely, and with any luck, efficiently cross each other's paths. Over the years, we've developed quite a few ways to manage this challenge of who gets to go and who gets to wait, from simple signs to roundabouts, but one of the most common ways we control the right-of-way at intersections is the traffic signal. I'm Grady, and this is Public Works, my video series on infrastructure and the human-made world around us. This video is sponsored by Squarespace. More on that later. There are a lot of good analogies between cities and human anatomy, and roadways are no exception. Highways are like the aorta, with a high capacity and single major destination. Small collector roads are like the capillaries, with not much capacity, but a connection to every individual house and business. And in between are the aptly named arterial roadways, the medium capacity connections between urban centers. Rather than ramps, overpasses, and access roads to control the flow of traffic, arterial roads use at-grade intersections through which only a few traffic streams can pass at a time. We call this interrupted traffic flow for obvious reasons. In most cases, these intersections are the limit to the maximum throughput of the roadway. In other words, increasing the number of lanes or speed limit won't have any effect on the overall capacity of the road. The only way to increase the number of vehicles that safely travel from point A to B is to increase the efficiency of the intersection. In addition, these intersections are where a vast majority of accidents occur. For these reasons, traffic engineers put a lot of thought and analysis into the design of intersections and how to make them as safe and efficient as possible. Controlling the flow of traffic through an intersection, otherwise known as assigning right-of-way, is an enormous challenge and almost always requires a compromise of numerous conflicting considerations, including space, cost, approach speed, cycle time, sight distance, types and volumes of traffic, and human factors like habits, expectations, and reaction times. Intersections also need to be rigidly standardized so that when you come to an unfamiliar one, you already know your role in the careful and chaotic dance of vehicles and pedestrians. From a throughput standpoint, the ideal intersection would cause no interruption to flow whatsoever, but you can't put a high-five interchange on every city block. On the other hand, simple signs are cost-effective and don't require any extra space, but they can't handle a lot of volume because they create an interruption for every single vehicle passing through the intersection. You can see why traffic signals are so popular. They aren't a panacea for all traffic problems, but they do offer a very nice balance of the considerations we discussed before: relatively low cost, minimal space requirements, and the ability to handle large volumes of traffic with only some interruption. In their simplest form, traffic signals are a set of 3 lights facing each lane of an intersection. When the light is green, that lane has the right of way to cross. When the light is red, they don't. The amber light warns that the signal is about to change from green to red. Beyond this basic function, traffic signals can take on innumerable complexities to accommodate all kinds of situations. Let's take a look at a typical intersection here in the US to show how they work. At each approach to an intersection, there are 3 directions vehicles can go, called movements: right, through, or left. Right and through are usually grouped together as a single movement, so a typical 4-way intersection has 8 vehicle and 4 pedestrian movements. These movements can be grouped into phases of the traffic signal. For example, the left turn movements on opposite approaches can be grouped into a single phase because they can both go at the same time without conflicts. Traffic engineers use a ring and barrier diagram to sketch out how different phases of the signal are allowed to operate. Here's the ring and barrier diagram for our example intersection. The first phase is the major street left turns. Then the major street vehicle and pedestrian through movements. A barrier to clear the intersection. The minor street left turns. The minor street vehicle and pedestrian through movements. And finally, another barrier before the cycle starts again.
Hi, I'm Rex Moore with the Motley Fool in front of BMW's self-driving exhibit.
There are an endless variety of phasing arrangements that traffic engineers use to accommodate various intersection configurations and traffic volumes for each movement. Even the simple decision of whether to use protected or unprotected left turns takes a significant amount of analysis and consideration. Another important decision is how long each sequence of a phase should last. Ideally, a green light should last at least long enough to clear the queue that built up during the red light. This isn't always possible, especially during peak times on busy intersections. In these cases where the intersection is saturated, the green light might be extended for each phase to minimize the startup and clearance times, which are periods when the intersection isn't being utilized to its maximum capacity. The amber light needs to last long enough for a driver to perceive the warning and decelerate their vehicle to a stop at a comfortable rate. 1 second for every 10 miles per hour or 16 kilometers per hour on the speed limit is a general rule of thumb. But traffic engineers also take into account the slope of the approach and other local considerations when setting the timing for yellow lights. In most places in North America, you're allowed to enter an intersection for the full duration of a yellow light, which means there needs to be a time when all phases have a red light to allow the intersection to clear. This clearance interval is usually about a second, but can be adjusted up or down based on speed limit and intersection size. So far, we've only been talking about signals on a set timing sequence, but most traffic signals these days are more sophisticated than that. Actuated signal control is the term we use for signals that can receive input from the outside and use that information to make decisions about light timing and sequence on the fly. These types of signals rely on data from traffic detection systems. These sensors can be embedded cameras or radars, but most commonly they're inductive loop sensors embedded into the road surface. They are essentially large metal detectors which simply measure whether or not a car or truck is present, sometimes to the annoyance of bicycles, scooters, and motorcycles that may be too small to trigger the loop. Whatever the type of sensor, they all feed data into an equipment cabinet located nearby. You've probably seen hundreds of these cabinets without realizing their purpose. Inside this cabinet is a traffic signal controller, essentially a simple computer that is programmed with specific logic to determine when and how long each light will last based on the information from the detectors. Actuated control gives a traffic signal much more flexibility to handle variations in traffic load. For example, if a nearby road is closed and traffic rerouted through a signal that doesn't normally see such high demand, it may need to be reprogrammed before the closure. A light equipped with actuated control will simply see the additional traffic and adjust its phasing accordingly. Same thing with special events like concerts and sports games that create huge traffic demands on irregular schedules, and even seasonal changes in traffic like in major tourist destinations. Actuated systems can also keep you from waiting at a long light when no one's crossing in the other direction. Finally, actuated control can help by giving priority to emergency vehicles and public transportation by using specialized detectors like infrared or acoustic sensors that communicate directly with certain types of vehicles. But actuated control isn't the end of the complexity. After all, it still treats each intersection as an isolated entity, when in reality each signal is a component of a larger traffic network. And each component of the traffic network can have an impact, sometimes a major impact, on other components in the system. Take the classic example of two signals closely spaced in a row on a major roadway. If one signal gives a green but the next one doesn't, cars can back up. If they back up far enough, they can sit through multiple cycles at an intersection without being able to pass through until the light beyond clears. It's a frustrating experience for anyone. A signal is inadvertently but significantly reducing the capacity of an adjacent signal. One solution to this problem is signal coordination, where lights can not only consider the traffic waiting at their intersection, but also the status of nearby signals. This is a very common configuration on long corridors with relatively minor but frequent cross streets. The signals on the major road are timed so that a large group of vehicles, called a platoon by traffic engineers, can make it all the way through the corridor without interruption. This type of signal coordination can significantly increase the volume of traffic that can pass through intersections, but it really only works on stretches of road that don't have other sources of traffic interruptions, like driveways and businesses. If the platoon can't stick together, the benefits of coordinating signals mostly gets lost. The obvious next step in efficiency is coordination of most or all the signals within a traffic network. This is the job of Adaptive Signal Control Technologies, or ASCT. In adaptive systems, rather than individual groups of lights, all the information from detectors is fed into a centralized system that can use advanced algorithms like machine learning to optimize traffic flow throughout the city. These type of systems can dramatically reduce congestion, but they're only just starting to be implemented in major urban areas. As sensors become more ubiquitous and computing power increases, traffic management may slowly but surely be relegated from civil engineers to software developers and data scientists. On the complete opposite side of centralization, many believe that self-driving cars are the next revolution in traffic management. If every vehicle could communicate and coordinate with every other vehicle on the road, interrupted traffic control could eventually become a thing of the past. But don't get your hopes too high. In dense urban areas, traffic congestion is often self-limiting. Especially during peak times, for every one person on the road, there are many more at work or at home waiting for the congestion to clear up before they head out. This latent traffic demand means that any increase in capacity will quickly be filled up with more traffic, bringing the congestion back to the same level it was before.
Katera was really...
Okay, a couple things that I want you to write down from this video. One was the length of a yellow light. So basically, they were saying for every 10 miles per hour, you're looking at least close to a second. And then a second or two when everybody has their red light. So most traffic lights are going to be with a yellow light for 3 to 5 seconds. 3 would be really quick. 5 is probably more common, or even maybe 6. And what they were saying is that they want, if you've entered into the intersection, then you're going through. Do not look at a yellow light as you're trying to beat it, to get, to accelerate. You only accelerate once it turns yellow. Don't accelerate while it's still green, trying to get up there fast, and then if it's turning yellow, going through. If you take a look at a traffic light as you're going through it, and you look up and you can see that the color is red, even though it was yellow when you started to go through, you're running a red light. You're on the front side of that intersection. You're not on the back side of it. My recommendation is to always go slightly slower than the speed limit when you're going through a yellow light. That way you've got an extra second or two to really think about what you're doing. Check your mirrors to make sure no one's following you too closely if you choose to stop. I want you to write down the term Opticom light. Oh, the other thing from the video that I forgot to mention was platoon. When a group of cars are all together, we call that a platoon. Usually when the platoon goes through the traffic light and then there's a gap and then there's another platoon or a few cars coming, that's when the light's going to change. It can sense when the last car of the platoon has gone through. And that's going to give you a good idea of knowing when lights are going to change. All right, write down Opticom light. An Opticom light, it's very hard to see in this picture, but between the two red lights, there's a little tiny red light. and that comes on and flashes, that means there's an emergency vehicle in the area. And if you could take a look at the traffic light that's on the pole on the right, it's red for everybody. So when the Opticom light comes on, everyone has a red light so the police car can filter through, the ambulance can filter through the intersection. It's to make it safe for emergency vehicles. Okay, turning right on red. It is legal in every state to turn right on red. Now, it's illegal to do it if it's posted saying that you can do it. Somersworth, Dover, has some intersections where it's illegal to turn right on red, but they have a sign up. In some cities, Washington, D.C., New York City, they don't want you turning right on red. Traffic is so bad, they don't want you causing what they call gridlock. And a lot of times people turning right on red creates that situation. But I want you to know there are 3 things that needs to take place before you turn right on red. The first is the most obvious. Stop. When you see a red light, it's funny. I've actually, no lie, had students come up to a red light and they look at me and they go, "Do I need to stop?" Now, I've been tempted to say, "Nah, what the heck? There's nobody around. Just go right through it." Why would you ask somebody, "Do I need to stop for a red light?" We know you've been a passenger in a vehicle for years. You know what red means. It's universal. You got to stop. That's the first thing. Okay, so right on red. First thing is stop. Second thing, look for a sign to see if it's legal to do it. No sign. I've stopped. There's no sign. Third thing, is there any traffic? If there's no traffic or traffic is far enough away, you can turn right on red, but you do not want to impede the flow of traffic. Never cut out in front of a car and say, "Oh, I can turn right on red," and then cut out in front of somebody and they beep their horn at you. That's illegal. If they have to hit their brakes, you did not yield. You did not do right on red correctly. What would you do if you come to an intersection that has a traffic light and the light's not working? Let's say that the power lines came down in a winter storm. What would you do? Always, always obey the directions of a police officer. He usually will come out to a major intersection that has a traffic light that's out. Well, wonder if there is no police officer and the light is out. What do I do then? You treat it like a 4-way stop. Everybody coming to the intersection stops, checks for traffic, and the person to the right or who was stopped first goes first. And we're going to be talking about the principles of right-of-way. I don't know if we'll be able to get to it tonight or not. Light turns green. Before you go through an intersection, make sure that you can make it all the way across. Here's a traffic light that's green, but if you take a look, there's a car carrier that's actually sticking out. He's actually stuck on the roadway. The middle part underneath that white and black truck that he's towing is on pavement. That truck, it was a half hour before they could move that truck because he bottomed out. He wasn't supposed to go up that side street. And all the cars, like the blue car in front of us, had to go over into oncoming traffic a little bit to get around where that truck is. So green means only go when it's safe to. If it's not safe to, then you're probably going to have to hold up. In this situation, there was enough of a space behind him, and oncoming cars moved over to the breakdown lane a little bit for us, and we were able to get by. Light turns yellow. We already kind of talked about that in the video. Make sure that you do not run that light. So go at appropriate speed. And the way I coined this term, point of no return, there comes a point when the light turns yellow that you're so close to the intersection that even if you wanted to stop, you just can't stop. We call that the point of no return. You're already committed. You're going through. So on a yellow light, this is what I want you to do. Find an object somewhere off to the side of the road. And in your mind, you're saying, if I get to that speed limit sign, let's say it says 30, and the light turns yellow, I've got about 80 feet to the stop line. At 30 miles per hour, that's not long enough for me. You've already made up your mind. You're going through the yellow light. So know what your car is capable of doing. Know what the appropriate stopping distance is. And we're going to have this in class next week. You know, how to figure out stopping distance. What is, stopping distance at 20, 40, 60? And we're going to talk about it. And I know most of you are going to say, I have no time frame or depth perception of distances. But we're going to try to help you out with car lengths and things like that. Always know what's behind you. I do not want you stopping for a yellow light where you're slamming on the brakes just to be hit from behind. That's not going to make me happy. I'd much rather have you go through a yellow light that's just turning red than to slam on the brakes and get hit from behind. So this does take practice, and I would recommend that you practice this as a passenger when you're driving with your parents. They're coming to a traffic light, and you look off to the side of the road, and you go, if my dad gets to this guardrail, I think he should probably go through and see what happens. I bet you most of you have parents that have gone through red lights. Traffic lights with arrows. What we call traffic lights with arrows are protected turns. So green arrows are protected turns. The arrow comes on, everybody else has a red light, you can make your turn. A red arrow to the right, notice in this case, it's telling you can't turn. But if that sign wasn't there, then it would be legal. And by the way, they've taken that sign down. This is a sign in Dover. And then a left arrow, you're waiting for it to turn to green. Ask your parents this question. When can you turn left on a red light? Most of you are going to probably say never. When can you turn left on a red light? When the light is blinking. And it's probably going to be a blinking red left arrow. That is the same as a stop sign. A blinking red light is the same as a stop sign. And we do have some of these in Dover. Always look for traffic around you, because there will always be some people that will be running red lights. Now, we talked about how red lights, lights will change 3 to 5 seconds on a yellow light, and then it turns red. But there's always a few people that are still going through that red light when it's 1-2 seconds red. I'm going to show you a video right now and this was I believe in Nebraska. Somewhere out Midwest, they're going to show you 10 people or 10 situations where people are running red lights. And you're going to be surprised at how red the lights are when they're running through. I'll provide commentary. So when the light turns red, I'm going to count. We'll see how many seconds the light was red when they ran through. 1, 2, 3, 4, about 3.5. And by the way, that is a display stop line to the left. See how the 2 lanes to the right, it's further up. The one that was on the left that was further back, that's a display stop line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds it was red, and he's still going through. That's why when you're the first car at an intersection, it turns green. You got to wait. You got to look. People are running red lights. 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds. 3 to 4 seconds it was red, and he's still going through. One, 2, 3, 4 to 5 seconds. And look at, he actually splits. Cars are already starting to turn, and he just goes in between them. That's pretty crazy. One, 2, 3 to 4 seconds. He actually goes around a vehicle to get through. One, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. Then he notices the trucks are bigger than he is, so he decides he better wait. One, 2, 3. Now we're getting some fender benders. Another intersection with a display stop line. One, 2, 3. See, the bus was blocking both of their views. So neither one of them knew that both cars were moving. I think 2 is worse than 1. Tell me what you think. Hitting a pedestrian is one of the worst nightmares. Now look at, he's going to crawl off the road. This guy, the light was really red. There's no one on the bus, so it's not that bad. And this is by far the worst. So this was, they're going to show you a picture. And this is called, by the way, photo enforcement, which means there's a camera a back away from the traffic light that you get to see who's actually running the red lights. So all these people, like that red car, he's getting a ticket in the mail. There's not a police officer around to give him a ticket. But in this state, they use photo enforcement, and this is a view from the other side now. So the light's red. You can see the car in the right lane doing the right thing. Car in the left lane, not so much. Whoop. And that is red light runners. Crosswalks, in your notes, write down, always look for your pavement markings indicating a crosswalk. Look for your yellow, neon yellow, and there are two different types of yellow signs. One is neon and one is regular yellow. So a neon yellow deals with pedestrians or school crossings. Always look left more than looking to the right. It's the person to the left that you'll probably miss. I've had more students miss pedestrians at crosswalks, not from the right side, because you're looking at the yellow line to the white line, so you pick it up. People aren't looking way over to the left to see someone way over there. And usually someone on the left is crossing towards you, coming into your path, not away from your path. That's dangerous. So if they're on the crosswalk, legally, we need to stop for them. What do we do with jaywalkers? Okay, we try to stop if we can. If we can't, just go slow, go around. But you're not legally obligated to stop. In some major cities now, we actually have bicycle lanes with bicycle lights. And bicycles, believe it or not, are supposed to follow the same rules of the road that cars do. But a lot of times they don't. So when we encounter bikes on the road, we've got to think the worst. They won't stop for stop signs. They won't signal turns. And they cut across intersections when they shouldn't. International signs, and this was from Responsible Driving. Shapes and colors are going to be universal. So we can tell by the two signs here. Taxi, of course, that's a motor service. And then do not enter. Even though there's no words, and if there were words, it was probably going to be in a different language, we could tell by the shape of the sign what it's trying to tell us. That's very handy. Can someone explain this sign? Seek alternative routes. But Mr. Toll, the wording is spelled backwards. Yes, I took a picture of my side view mirror, and that's what I saw. You mean when I look at my mirror, things are backwards? Yes. Next time you're in traffic and you see the front of an ambulance, take a look at the wording. It's spelt backwards in the front. Why? It's because when you look in your mirrors, it will be spelt correctly. You would think that a vehicle behind you with flashing red lights on, being fire or an ambulance, you'd know what it means. That's why I have to spell it. People don't look in their mirrors. So what is the future for signs? What the technology with GPS and everything? And this is kind of cool. They've got it over in Europe, but we're going to see more of it over here.
While driving, one passes so many traffic signs that sometimes even important information, such as speed limits or no overtaking signs, can get lost. The driver can also sometimes be distracted by traffic and not notice some of the signs. The Ford Traffic Sign Recognition System eliminates this issue by showing important traffic sign information in the instrument panel cluster. On display are speed limits and bans on overtaking, as well as their cancellation. The front camera records the traffic signs and transmits the respective data to the vehicle's traffic sign recognition system. The traffic sign recognition system uses an aging algorithm. This means that recently detected signs appear lighter. After a while, the color gets darker until the signs begin to gray out and finally completely disappear. This helps to make the driver aware of changes in real time.
I thought that was kind of interesting because this is the technology that's going to be in the cars once you get much older. Let's talk a little bit about pavement markings. 4 things about pavement markings, so write this down. The color. On the left side of the roadway, on your side where you're driving, the line, if it's yellow next to you, it means traffic is coming at you. It's two-way traffic. If the line to the left of you is white, traffic is next to you is going in the same direction. All right? So the color of the line's telling you 2 different things. If it's a solid line to the left of you, it's no passing. If it's a broken line, it's passing. The line to the right of you, which will be white, is called the fog line or the edge line. That's where you focus your attention. So here's an example. Okay. Down the bottom. Shared turn lane, write that down. A shared turn lane is what we find in most major cities like Dover, Portsmouth. Is the middle lane is for left turns for either direction. We've talked about no passing, about the lines there, one-way streets, two-way streets. And we've talked about crosswalks. Now, this is something that you don't necessarily see around here. And that's reversible lanes. Okay, reversible lanes is where the middle lane changes direction depending on the time of day that it is. So here in the morning, in the AM, the middle lane where the shared turn lane is, it's only going in one direction. It's usually going into the city. But later in the day, it goes in the opposite, going away from the city. So in your reading, it basically explained it pretty well. Stay under the lane that has a green arrow, and that's usually the furthest to the right. If you see a red X over your lane, that means do not drive in that lane. So get out of that lane as quickly as possible. If it's a flashing yellow or a solid yellow X, then that means you can use that lane temporarily, but get out of the lane as soon as you can. The lane is going to be changing to a different direction. I'm going to show this at another point, the zipper lane. And the zipper lane just basically means like reversible lane. is that the lane changes. And this is in Massachusetts, just south of Boston. I was going to pick up my daughter. She lives down in Massachusetts. But that middle lane, see where the cones are? I kind of went to the left of the cones, and now I'm entering into the beginning part of the zipper lane. And that's really just another term for reversible lanes. Expressway markings we kind of went over, but do know what HOV stands for. HOV is for high occupancy vehicle lane. That's the carpooling lane. In the carpooling lane, if you have a hybrid or energy efficient vehicle, then you can actually use that. So be familiar with that shape and that term, HOV, high occupancy vehicle. So carpooling. Okay, here we go, interstate routes. So I told you we're going to get to it tonight. So what I want you to write down in your notes, if it's a red, white, and blue sign, it's an interstate route, and the United States is built upon a grid. The odd first number, like in this example, 17, goes north-south. If it's an even number, it goes east-west. Now, on the green sign below, if it's got a 3-digit and it's got a shield or maybe a symbol of the old man of the mountain, that is a state route. And if it has a even number first, as 202, it goes through or around a city. If it's a 3-digit state route with an odd first number, we have an odd number in Durham. We have 108 and 155. Those are state routes with an odd number. It only goes through a city. Doesn't do both. Only does one. Now, I did mention this when we saw the video of the people running red lights, so I want you to diagram this. That lane with the left turn arrows, we call that a displaced stop line. And the reason why it's about 4 to 8 feet back from the lines to the right is for large moving vehicles to make their turns. Because if you're up even with them and a truck was making a turn at that intersection, they would probably hit your vehicle. So they push you back, or at least try to, with a line. And you'd be surprised how many people don't do it correctly. Like a police officer, look at that. Even a police officer makes mistakes. See the stop line in front of the motorcycle? The police car is entirely beyond the stop line. If you look at the color of the light, it is a red light. Okay, he shouldn't be doing that. He's treating it like the stop line for the right lane. Not good. School bus safety. I'll write down in your notes. The yellow light will always come on first. The yellow light's going to come on to let you know that the bus is stopping up ahead. So it's giving everybody fair warning. And they've got to do it within so many feet. I don't know what it is, but it is a rule. Your rule that you need to know is that when the red lights do come on, you've got to stay back 25 feet. Behind the bus and in front of the bus. Now, this is what I want you to write down. 25 feet, stop behind a school bus with red lights. Well, most people are saying, well, what does 25 feet look like? 2 car lengths. If you can look in front of your vehicle behind the bus and you say, 2 cars could fit in this little area, then you've got 25 feet. And if you always remember 2 car lengths, you should remember your answer begins with the 2. You just got to remember the 5. And always watch for kids after the bus has left. Okay? This is what it looks like in Durham. I actually had a student. This is... Okay, here we go. We're back definitely 25 feet. It's probably closer to 40. Kids are getting out. They have to leave on the same side. There's a stop sign that protrudes out from a school bus. So we shouldn't be going around the school bus right now. That would be illegal. That would be totally unsafe. Now, this is usually what's happening at the beginning of school. I'll just show you this and then we'll kind of end this. I don't know if I've got it up here.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Terror at a school bus stop in Tampa this morning.
I didn't know which kid to help because there was so many laying on the ground.
Witnesses say a speeding car slammed into 5 children and 2 adults, leaving one child in critical condition. The driver now in custody. One of 4 accidents at school bus stops in just the past 3 days. In central Pennsylvania this morning, a 7-year-old killed in a hit and run. The driver never even stopping to help. While in Mississippi, this man is now charged with aggravated assault after a 9-year-old was struck and killed. And in Indiana, a community is mourning 3 siblings killed this week crossing the road on their way to the bus. That driver also facing charges. Some 25 million students nationwide ride a school bus, but experts say getting on and off can be the most dangerous time, especially this time of year. Right before daylight saving time ends, it's often dark as children wait in the morning. So reflective clothing or backpacks can help. And teach children to line up away from the street, stay alert, and never assume a driver will stop. A deadly lesson learned the hard way for so many this week. Kristen Dahlgren, NBC News, New York.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks.
Okay, it's one of the saddest things when you, and that's really sad when a family loses 3 kids and right in front of your own house. So every time you look out the window, it's going to be a grim reminder of what happened. Probably they put the house up for sale and move. But 5 kids in 1 week, and it's usually right around the beginning of school opening up that we see this. I think it's going to be different now that we've got so much of schools going to remote, but you never know. There's some schools that are still going to be active and having kids in the school. So that's something we have to be thinking about in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And when you think about it, you guys are getting your license probably mid-September if you get your 40 hours done with your parents and finish up with me. So it's still relatively right around the opening of school. I'd say till October, mid-October, when people get into a routine. So this will be an issue. I apologize for the glitches tonight. I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened. And it happened twice. I'll try to look into it and see what I can do, but hopefully tomorrow night we don't have these problems. We didn't get through everything I wanted to, so we're going to have to do a little bit more tomorrow. So for homework, and I did post on Facebook, so get your worksheet on Facebook dealing with this chapter. No homework. Just go to the Facebook page, do chapter 3 that I have a worksheet, because most of the questions that are done at the end of these chapters that I give you is just to see that you've done your reading. They're not really complicated questions. The worksheets are a little bit more involved. Will take you a little bit more time, and the questions I think are a little bit better. All right. So do the worksheet. That is it. We'll pick up tomorrow night where we're left off right here. And we still got to make up on turning. So I've got back-to-back classes where I wasn't able to finish up everything. So once again, I apologize. Please sign up for drive times. I got to drive with you guys before school starts. It's hard to believe. Really, we've only got like 10 more days and school starts. So, okay, sign up. All right, have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow night.